Hello, teachers. Ben Jennings here. I'm here with Miles Scarborough. How you doing, Miles?
I'm good, Pastor Ben. How are you?
This video is for session 5.
Yes, sir.
In our study in Exodus. And the one big difference between this video and previous ones is that with this video, you wrote the outline.
I did.
Not me.
I'm
so this
sorry,
is
everyone. This should be exciting.
This is basically my the Spanish Inquisition. I get to ask you, why in the world did you choose these points?
Right.
And it should be fun. So do you feel nervous at all?
No, I don't think so.
This is going to be permanently on the internet. I don't think
I have a lot of things that are permanently on the internet.
I don't think it'll ever come off. So help us understand, what's the context, what's going on with this lesson?
Right. So where we're at is that we just finished our last lesson. Well, I guess 2 lessons ago because we had a Christmas lesson, but we were talking about the Passover, and then Pharaoh says, okay, get these people out of here and bless me also, right?
Yeah.
So they all leave, and then Pharaoh changes his mind. That's what we don't see in this passage.
It was a big gap between, I don't know who Jehovah is, get back to your burdens, to yes, please leave, and as you go, bless me also.
Right. Now he knew who God was.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But then he eventually changes his mind and says, you know what? I do want to kill them. I want them back. Right. And I want to punish them, and I want them to be mine. And then, so he starts going after them, and then the people now are stuck at the Red Sea, and then they see that Pharaoh's behind them, and now they're questioning. And this begins their kind of doubt and worry that they start having as they go through the wilderness.
The grumbling phase.
Right. But it's understandable because now they have the Red Sea right in front of them, and then Pharaoh coming to attack them. So what are they going to do? Right. And the session kind of emphasizes the idea of God's power, and then our response to God's power.
Right. Of
having faith in how strong He is.
I think this may be a theme that comes up a lot, but I kind of feel this way about whenever you read the Bible. We as Bible teachers can be really harsh on the people. Right. Like, oh, they're doubting. How dare they doubt? And they're so faithless and stuff like that. But and we tend to think, I would do it different. Like, I know how I would react. Right. I would be way more faithful. And the truth of the matter is, we probably would be complaining right along with them.
Right. Exactly.
So that seems to be kind of part of the lesson we can learn. So the objective statement you wrote in today's lesson is that we can strengthen our faith in God. Our faith in God can be strengthened by recognizing 3 qualities of His power. So this is a lesson all about God's power.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And we see that demonstrated through Exodus 14:19 through 31. So the first section you've described this way: God's power leads us through our circumstances. So there's a leading quality to His power. Let's read Exodus 14:19 through 22. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them. But it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near to the other side near to the other all the night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Wow.
Right. Sees power there, right? And I've never thought about verse 19 and 20 before, in the sense that, like, God's providing even before they get to the Red Sea. He's giving them that cloud, and He's giving them even a light so that they can continue traveling during night. And then seeing they get to the Red Sea, and then God opens it up, which is like, you've heard that a ton of times since Sunday school, right? But like we've said before, this might be the first time someone in your class is hearing that the Red Sea's parted,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But it's an amazing thing, the power of God. Just like, God wasn't worried by any circumstance that they were in, and that's why we can see that God's leading them right through that. He tells Moses exactly what to do. Just raise your staff, the waters will part, and they do.
Yeah. There's a leadership in that for sure.
Right.
That the pillar of cloud and the fire is actually leading them, but then there's also a defensive posture that it gives, right?
Right, because it's behind them as well too.
Right.
Yeah. Verse 19 stood behind them.
Right. What do you think the Egyptians would have been dealing with in terms of seeing all this? How do you think they're thinking?
Right. I think there's a sense of fear and like, oh, we're going up against like their God. I think they would have seen that.
They've already been dealing with that.
Yeah, right. So they're like,
All the
now we're going
plagues
back. But I think Pharaoh at this point is just so plagued by his fury and his anger and his hard-heartedness that he's fine pushing through. He's like, I don't know if he thinks he can take God. I don't.
Right.
But we tend to not act wisely when we're fueled by our sin and our anger. Yeah.
Do you think that I would tend to think that the army going after him probably, I don't know, there probably were mixed emotions on it.
Right.
Like there's probably some hatred towards their slaves that are now leaving. You know, there's probably also some like, man, we keep going up against this God and it's not going well.
Yeah.
You know, flies.
Yeah. Do we
frogs.
really need these slaves? Like they're just slaves.
They've been a lot of problem.
Right.
There's a cost to these slaves here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give me some ideas here for application, Miles. Like when you're talking about leadership and God's power in leadership, how does that apply?
I think it's a beautiful thing where we don't want to like do eisegesis, right? Read into the text. Like we're not going to find a Red Sea in our life.
Right.
We don't need to do that, right?
Right.
But there are times where we see these circumstances and our instinct, like even the small things, like just I see any roadblock ever, and I automatically just sometimes think, well, God's failed me, or this isn't good, and Lord, where are you at? Are you helping me? Like, how am I going to get through this? And like, He's always helped me through the past, but now this new random obstacle is going to be the one that finally does God in, right? But seeing that when I get faced with these hurdles, like be able to look at how He's already providing. He provided and got them out of Egypt. He had them escape. They exited, and then He's even given them a pillar, a cloud, and given them light. So He's already providing then. So okay, there's a Red Sea. Well, He's going to continue to provide, and then once He gets you through that, He's going to make sure the Egyptians don't follow you, and He will continue to provide. And it's just this continual trust of He's always set a good precedent. And that's why these stories are beautiful, because you can see, well, He provided then. It's the same God that will continue to provide now.
There's a ditch on either side when it comes to like getting direction from God, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now that I'm on the internet, this is my official position, apparently.
Yeah, right.
And that is that like on the one hand, you're looking for, a sign in every circumstance. So today I had French fries and, I met a French guy at Walmart, and then I threw a dart at the wall and it hit the country of France. So now God wants me to be a missionary to France. It's like, maybe that's all just coincidence. You don't need to exegete your circumstances. On the other side is to just say, God doesn't ever move in circumstances. He doesn't ever impress. He doesn't ever that's totally done completely. So don't even worry about praying about what you should do. Just try to use God's wisdom. Yeah. And don't even pray about it, And I am very slow to say that you should try to get some kind of quiver in your liver, to try to make a decision. But I do think it's very healthy to pray and say, God, what do you want me to do? And to try, and of course we use wisdom and all of that. Of course we seek wisdom, and if He's not going to ask us to do something that He isn't going to equip us to do. And so I think that there is God is powerful, and sometimes He does lead, and we have to be wise. We have to use the Word of God. He has given us. He wrote a book, and I definitely lean towards like, what does the Bible say? What has God shaped you for? What are the wise people in your life saying? But God uses our circumstances to lead us, and He's powerful enough, like you said, to get us through those difficult things and to get us where we need to go. So I think that's a good thing, and he's not leading in my life like a cloud, like take me to the restaurant, or away from the restaurant, But He's doing that here, and that's pretty cool.
Right.
So that leads us to point number 2. God's power defeats our enemies. We'll look at verses 23 to 28. It says this: "And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all the Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians, and through the pillar of fire and the cloud, and the troubled the host of the Egyptians. and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel. And the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon the chariots, and upon the horsemen. And the Lord said unto Moses, all right, I said that. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, verse 27, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the host of the Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Right. And just seeing once again, his power is displayed in defeating these enemies. I mean, I like verse 25 where it's like taking off the chariot wheels, like they can't even get out of there. And they're realizing this part, oh, we've messed up, like we're stuck,
Right.
And then they want to turn back. Now we actually get to see their emotions and see their fear, and they're realizing the Lord's fighting for them and we're losing.
Right.
And I don't know if they're trying to turn around. I bet they are at this point, but now their chariots are stuck. Who knows what their horses are doing? They're probably freaking out. What is Pharaoh's reaction? He's still saying push forward. But you see that.
And literally in verse 25, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians.
Yeah.
Like the children of Israel aren't doing really anything other than just following God.
Right.
Literally in the cloud, and God's fighting on their behalf. He's already defending them by coming around. Now he's actually fighting for them.
Yeah. And these are just like, they're slaves that they're going after, right? These are just nobodies.
Right.
Yeah, these are just some Israelites, but they have the Lord, like all capital letters. Like we see that God is providing, his power is stronger than these Egyptians. And then seeing Moses stretch forth his hand, I like having the mental picture of being an Egyptian. You're trying to get your chariot out of the sand, and then you look up, and then Moses is just raising his hand. You're like, oh, something's about to happen. Like
that would make a great movie.
Right, yeah. And then just seeing
Shot.
the waters like just start falling. And I don't know if it was all at one time or if like the back is falling and it's like dramatic effect. But
in some of the movie depictions of them going through, they have like shadows of like fish.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like an aquarium,
Right.
And so, it'd be fun if I was creative enough to do like a cartoon adaptation to have like a shark or some fish staring at the
staring right at the
like,
into their soul.
Here I go,
Right.
It's kind of
that would be funny.
Yeah.
But still seeing that God defeated their enemies, and kind of an application thinking through this is like, this isn't an imprecatory psalm where you're just like, and this is good because I can curse my enemies now and get the Red Sea to fall upon them, but more so that we can know, because of seeing God always winning these victories, like thinking of our whole Battle Belongs series on Sunday night, always seeing God winning, and that he defeats our greatest enemy. If he defeats Satan, like it's not an if, it's already happened. He's already won and conquered sin and death.
I think it's less important to go, God, you need to go after my enemies.
Right.
You need to fight on my behalf. It's kind of more like, God, I want your enemies to be my enemies. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be on your side.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if I'm on your side, I know that in the end, the battle belongs to you. I'm going to win. So there's that kind of like way of thinking. It's in application for life. It's not about, I don't want to hate my mission field. I don't know who is going to respond and with faith in Christ, and who's
Right.
There's even stories of people who have been martyred or been put in prison, and so they're the people whipping him. I mean, you see that with Paul. Like the people beating him are the ones he's like, the Philippian jailer is a good example. Like he's literally put them in stocks in the hindermost part of the prison. And then after the earthquake, he's like, don't kill yourself, and then he leads the whole family to Christ. So the person who's your enemy, like humanly speaking, in one moment could be your mission field,
Right.
So, so just being on God's side and all of that, and then having that idea that at the end we win. If you're on his side, you win, which is a pretty cool thing.
Right. And like seeing how Jesus treats his enemies, he says pray for them, and he says love them.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
So it's not it's seeing that this Pharaoh has been overthrown, and he's gone, and that we can see that sin has been overthrown and that sin is gone, and that's what we get to rejoice in. And I think that's a theme we see throughout, and I think we talked about that in even session 3 of that. He's providing this deliverance, and he's even providing it from people that are seeking to bring evil, and that we can know no matter what happens in our life, like we have a heavenly citizenship that we can look forward to, and that the opposition is not stronger than what God's done. Like even our enemies who we are praying for, sometimes we still feel the burden of the pain that comes from that, the mocking, the outcast, whatever it is, but knowing that we can have hope because of it, because of who God is, and that he's won and no opposition can take down what he's already done.
That's right. Well, then you see a progression here. God's leading us through our circumstances. He led them.
Right.
Then God's defeating our enemies because we're on his side. And if God is on our side, who can be against us, right? But then once we see him deliver, then his power then motivates us. It's motivational, right? It motivates us to worship. So God's power it leads. God's power fights for us, defeats others.
Yeah.
And then now it motivates us to worship. And so that's what we see in verse 29 to 31. I'll try not to mess up. Here we go. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. And then as you get in chapter 15, to your point, they sang. Then Moses sang in the church and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he overthrown into the sea. So yeah, that speaks to your point here, that worship.
And we've seen they're walking upon dry land, verse 29, the children of Israel, like they're in the midst of the sea. Like that's a great sentence, just that they're walking upon dry land, and then they escape, and that the Lord saved Israel that day. And I love that it says no one can take credit for that. Like it wasn't Moses, it wasn't any Israelite that was there. And because we so often try to do that. Sometimes I'm praying for God to help me, and then like he does, and I say, wow, I really did a good job.
Yeah.
You see how I got through this?
Their part is so minuscule as to, it's kind of interesting. Like they had to do something that demonstrated that they had faith in God, but that's something they did could not be ever presented as this is why it happened, right?
Right.
So Moses, what's he gonna like? Did you see how I put that staff over the sea? That was amazing. Like.
It's like,
no,
it's all God.
Did you see how we walked behind the cloud?
Yeah.
We were so good. It's like they still had to follow God and do their part, but all they were doing is just demonstrating their faith in God. And then God is the one who's doing all the work.
Right. Yeah.
He's the one killing the enemies and moving the Red Sea and all the rest.
Right. And then he's the one that deserves all the glory for it.
He gets the credit.
And that's what they do. To their credit is that Israel saw the great work, verse 31, and then what the Lord did upon the Egyptians, and they feared the Lord. And that idea of fear is that there's this reverence and awe of, oh, that's our God, and he's really powerful, and we're really glad we're on his side.
Right.
And then worshiping him and believing on the Lord and trusting. Because even through this, I would imagine that there's still, just because of how stubborn creation is there's still Israelites wondering, like, hey, is God really for us? Like, what? Okay, sure, he got us out of the Egyptians. He gave these plagues. He got us, but now he's got us through the Red Sea. Like, it was a check mark. It was a checkpoint of we've gotten out. And now they're actually believing in the Lord and his servant. And now they're actually believing in Moses too. Right. Because it would have taken me a long time to actually trust Moses. Because he was this Egyptian guy, and then he killed someone, and then he left, and then now he's coming back, and now he's like, now I'm going to help deliver.
I'm in charge.
You.
God put me in charge.
Right.
And I talk to a bush.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Talk to a bush, so I have some credibility.
It's all good. Yeah. Here's my ID card. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now they're actually believing in him, and they're believing in God and saying, okay, he's given us Moses, and Moses hasn't failed us, and God hasn't failed us. Right. Now we're going to worship him.
That's amazing.
And it was convicting to me in the sense of, I've seen God do so much in my life, and even this week, but when was the time I worshiped him for it, right? And even praised him and thanked him for it. And I see this even sometimes when I pray, is that he answers it, and I don't thank him. I just think I think of it as a formula. Okay, bad thing happens, I pray, God answers it, then I'm happy, But I never.
And I'm on to the next thing that I need to pray about.
And it's like, okay, God, now I have this other thing, and that's why I feel so anxious and overwhelmed all the time, because I'm not focusing on how He's actually been providing.
God, could you give me kids? Oh man, God help me with these kids.
Right. Yeah.
God, could you grow my church? Oh my word, what are we doing with all these people?
Yeah.
And it's like, you never stop and pause and go, oh, by the way, thank you, God. Thank you for what you did. This is awesome.
Right. And just worshiping for his power and his glory. Like it's a privilege that we get to be on God's side,
right.
And that we get to be his servants. Like I sometimes think we take that, I know I take it for granted, but knowing that he is so powerful and that we don't have to, nothing's ever taken him by surprise. Nothing's ever made him off guard. Nothing's ever made him nervous.
Right.
And that's why we can have our faith strengthened.
One of the things I like about the outline that you put together, Miles, and I think it's in keeping with how we should think about the whole Bible, and that is sometimes we get to thinking that this is about Moses, or this is about the people, or this is about Pharaoh, when first and foremost, this is a story about God. We are learning about God. And this outline, you've kind of told us, this is God revealing himself as much as it is him delivering. He's saying, I'm a God who leads. I'm a God who fights. I'm a God who deserves worship, and that's those general things are true for our lives now, right? It's still something, he still does those things, and life really isn't about us. It's about him. And we have to, if we keep that perspective, then there's a lot of joy and a lot of wisdom that we will receive from him in living out our lives. But if we can, what do your teenagers say? Main character energy. If we think we're the main character, if we think we're the main character, then we're missing the point.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really, really good. This is a good lesson. I think that we want our people, and I think this is going to end up being. This is going to be the first Sunday of the year, isn't it?
I think it'll be the 29th, so it won't be the first Sunday yet.
Okay, so
it'll be close.
Okay, so this is heading into the new year then.
Yes, sir.
And getting us focused on God as we head in the new year is probably a good thing. Probably it is a good thing, right?
Right.
Thanks for the input, Miles, and I'll see you weeks from now on the next lesson.
For sure. Yes, totally.
We may be wearing the same clothes.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, too, I got a message from Todd, or not a message. He said, "Hey, by the way, I heard my shout out on the internet."
Oh yeah, yes. Todd, we love you, Todd.
So there's at least one person that makes it to the end of our videos. So we'll see if that happens again. All right, teachers. Hey, I hope you have a great Christmas season, and don't underestimate what God can do through you, because it's not you, it's him, right? And what can happen as we pour into our people. All right, have a great day.